The company of a pet, like a cat or a dog, can be extremely cozy for a human being. There are even cases in which these animals turn up in people's backyards and end up becoming part of the family. However, the situation changes completely when we are talking about a wild animal, such as an alligator or an elephant. As incredible as it may seem, there are reports and even videos that show these cases, and that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. Imagine walking into a convenience store and finding a giant monitor lizard perched on the shelves. That is exactly what happened in a 7-Eleven in Thailand in the year 2021. The animal was an Asian water monitor, a species common in Asia, which can reach almost 2 meters in length. It walked in as if it were a customer, climbed onto the shelves near the ice machine, and lay there, ignoring the nervous screams and laughter of the patrons. An employee of the store called the police, who summoned a reptile specialist team. They were able to coax the animal back out to a nearby vegetated area with no major harm to the lizard or to the store. Though it may look like a surreal scene, the reason can be quite simple: hunger. The region had been experiencing weeks of dry weather, which drove away the monitor's natural prey. Since they live near canals and wetlands, it is not uncommon for them to approach urban areas when food is scarce. The Asian water monitor is the second largest lizard in the world, second only to the Komodo dragon. Despite their size, most species do not pose a great risk to humans, but nobody wants to share the soft drink aisle with an animal of that magnitude, right? And as unusual as the scene seems, it was not the first, nor will it be the last. With urban areas increasingly encroaching on these animals' habitats, encounters like this may become much more common than we imagine. In a rural area on the outskirts of Calgary, Canada, a family experienced a huge scare. In the middle of the afternoon, while preparing lunch for her 5-year-old daughter, Jessica Lowe saw through the balcony window a young cougar, also known as a mountain lion. The animal stayed there for between 5 and 10 minutes, growling and scratching at the glass. The family's pet cat became the wild cougar's victim. Jessica barely had time to calm down. A few hours later, the same cougar returned, this time ramming its head against the window as if it wanted to come in. Startled, she approached, and the animal fled. However, the tension remained. According to neighbors, everyone began changing their routines, escorting their children to the school bus door, locking horses in the barns, and staying on high alert. The cougar's behavior caught experts' attention. While it is common for wild felines to return to places where they found food, the level of boldness this one displayed around humans is not typical. To environmental authorities, it seemed more defensive than aggressive. Perhaps it was merely protecting what it considered its prey. Even so, the case was treated seriously. Wildlife officers set traps in the area and recommended that residents avoid walking alone. After all, in rural Canada, wildlife can quite literally knock on your door. New Delhi, the capital of India, is facing an unusual and very complex problem: a true invasion of rhesus macaques. It is estimated that approximately 5,000 of these monkeys have taken over the streets and public buildings of the city, including the presidential palace. These monkeys are everywhere. They climb windows, rummage through trash, enter offices, and even try to steal food from staff. The situation got so out of control that the government hired 40 professional monkey chasers who patrol with poles to drive the animals away. But the problem is far from simple. Residents themselves, by leaving food scraps and garbage exposed, end up attracting even more monkeys. Experts warn that as long as there is easy access to food, the animals will continue to appear. The situation became so tense that public servants were advised to avoid even making eye contact with the monkeys so as not to provoke aggressive reactions. Yes, people are working with one eye on their documents and the other on the rooftop, ready to defend themselves. Until a definitive solution is found, the chaos continues. And, it seems, the monkeys are in no hurry to leave. After all, they have turned the Indian capital into their perfect playground. The residents of a Brazilian town could not believe it when a jaguar showed up, roaming the streets as if they were part of the jungle. The incident occurred in Cerqueira Cesar, a small city in the state of São Paulo, Brazil, with about 20,000 inhabitants. It was a typical Tuesday morning when the animal appeared, walking through neighborhood streets, startling pedestrians, tampering with gates, and even entering the backyard of a construction site. A video circulating on social media shows the moment a woman is surprised by the feline. A driver, trying to warn neighbors, followed the jaguar in his car, honking and shouting. The town went on alert until the jaguar tried to hide behind a health clinic, where it remained cornered for some time.
ó, sai da... Esconde aí a onça aí, ó. Esconde aí. Esconde aí. Fecha a porta aí, ó.
Firefighters, environmental police, and even veterinarians from a nearby university were called in to capture the animal. After several failed attempts, they decided to use a tranquilizer dart. The capture was successful, and the Jaguar, a young male of about 3 years of age, was taken to a forest reserve 25 kilometers away. Experts believe the feline may have been driven from its forest territory by an older male. This unexpected visitor gave the town a big scare and left the residents with an unforgettable story. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night and finding a 4-meter python in your bedroom. That is exactly what happened to Chacha Scheuer, a 25-year-old Australian, who was horrified to realize that a giant python was in the room, literally beside the bed where she had been sleeping. The incident occurred in 2018, and, according to her, the animal appeared to be assessing the situation, as if deciding whether it was worth attacking or not. The snake had entered the house without anyone noticing. Chacha only realized it when she was face to face with the intruder.
Aber gleich lang war nicht mit der rauskommt. Hast du den Deckel? Chico, get out.
Instead of panicking, she and her mother decided to handle the situation themselves. Together, they managed to coax the python into a container, and only the next day did they safely release the animal outside. No one was hurt, neither people nor snake. Despite the scare, this type of occurrence is not so rare in Australia. Since pythons are non-venomous, they often enter homes seeking shelter or food and are common in the warmer regions of the country. Chacha took the situation in stride, even joking that at almost 1.80 meters in height, she would not have been exactly a light snack for the snake. But let's face it, you have to keep your cool to deal with something like that. A couple in South Africa was confronted with an unbelievable scene at the home of David de Beer's father in Hoedspruit, a region near Cougar National Park. They had gone just to inspect the property, which was for sale, but who seemed to be enjoying the place were 6 adult lions, sprawled out on the veranda deck, sunbathing as if nothing could be more normal. David and Mariska opened the curtains and saw the scene. 6 enormous cats relaxing without a care in the world. They tried not to make a sound, but when the door creaked, the lions were startled, rose slowly, and walked off calmly toward the bush. The property is located within Leadwood Big Game Estate, where wild animals roam freely across over 5,000 hectares of native vegetation. There, living in the midst of nature is not just a marketing promise, it's reality. The video the couple recorded went viral, and some even joked that the lions were the best guard dogs possible, since they do not need food, require no upkeep, and scare away any intruder. At least nobody was hurt in the end. The lions were simply enjoying a nap in the wrong place. But if you ever visit a house in that area, it is worth checking the backyard before you go in. You never know who might be waiting on the veranda. On Easter Sunday, residents of Florida, United States, got an unexpected visitor, a huge alligator casually strolling through the neighborhood. The animal, about 3 meters long, was caught on police cameras as it crossed a lawn as if it were just taking a walk. It crossed the yard calmly and headed straight for the community lake called Harrington Lake. According to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, it all happened in the morning, and the video quickly went viral on social media.
I'm tired. I think I'll take a break.
Break time. He's just tired.
Although it was a curious sight, authorities took it seriously. Officers warned local residents to stay alert, especially those living near water. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission was also called in to monitor the case. Anyone living in Florida is accustomed to occasional alligator encounters, since they are part of the local environment. But it is not every day one decides to show up at your doorstep, especially on a holiday. In the end, the alligator caused no harm and returned peacefully to the lake. But finding a wild animal of that size around your home is always risky. One morning that seemed ordinary, residents of a village in India awoke to the sound of roofs collapsing, motorcycles toppling, and an unmistakable roar. An elephant, the animal, which had come from a nearby forest, entered the village panicked and disoriented. In just a few hours, it had knocked down shacks, damaged vehicles, and destroyed several houses. According to the villagers, the elephant seemed more frightened than aggressive, but the damage was extensive. Fortunately, despite the chaos, no one was injured. Local authorities used tranquilizer darts to subdue the animal, and after several attempts, managed to capture it. It was taken to a reserve where other domestic elephants live, and according to officials, the plan was to return it to the wild as soon as possible. Such incidents have become increasingly frequent in that region. Experts explain that urban expansion into forest areas forces the animals out of their territories in search of food or shelter. The result is dangerous encounters for both humans and animals. In this case, the scare was huge, but the outcome was not the worst. The problem is that if nothing changes, this story may repeat itself, and not always with so much luck involved. In a quiet village in western India, two beasts appeared suddenly, but the stars of the show were two dogs. The incident occurred in Thordi, near Gir National Park, home to the world's last Asiatic lions. Everything was recorded by security cameras. It was night, shortly after 11 o'clock, when one of the lions approached the gate of a cowshed. On the other side, two guard dogs were already alert. Even facing a predator of that size, they did not back down. Tension turned into confrontation, with barking on one side and the clanging of claws on the metal gate on the other. Soon after, a second lion appears in the footage, and both begin pushing on the metal bars, trying to force their way through. At one point, the structure even gave way slightly, and you could feel that at any moment one of them could break through. But after almost a minute of stalemate, the lions simply gave up and returned to the forest. One of the dogs even left the shelter as if to make sure the danger had passed. A little later, a man appeared with a flashlight, gathered the dogs, and locked the gate. Although no attack occurred, of course the video went viral, and it is easy to see why. It is not every day that two dogs face down two adult lions and win. On an apparently quiet Saturday, B.U. Teifel Hair Salon, a beauty salon in Long Island, United States, was surprised by an unusual visitor. It was an adult deer which crashed through the storefront window, almost landing on a client seated on the reception sofa. The scene, captured by security cameras, is enough to leave anyone speechless. The animal shattered the glass, stumbled over the woman, and skidded through the salon, where the owner and a stylist were attending to another client. Both managed to dodge out of the way just in time. According to reports, the owner initially thought a car had crashed into the salon, but when she saw the deer inside, she was in shock. The deer seemed completely disoriented, raising its antlers and slipping on the smooth floor while running toward the back of the salon. Moments later, the deer retraced its path and, instead of exiting through the broken window, smashed through the glass door and bolted away. The woman on the sofa suffered injuries to her leg and head and had to be taken to the hospital. Fortunately, her wounds were not serious. The animal had already disappeared by the time police arrived. It was a quick, noisy invasion that no one there is likely to forget soon. Unusual haircuts? Fine. But a four-legged client with antlers? That is going too far. In 2016, a zoo in northern Japan experienced one of those days that made headlines worldwide. A 24-year-old chimpanzee named Chacha escaped from Yagiyama Zoo Park and spent almost 2 hours giving staff and firefighters a real run for their money. He was seen strolling through a residential neighborhood and in no time was hanging from high-voltage power lines several meters above the ground. All of this was broadcast live on Japanese television. The image was surreal. Chacha up high, snarling and baring his teeth at anyone who tried to approach with a cherry picker. The team tried everything to bring him back safely, but nothing worked. In the end, a veterinarian hit Chacha with a tranquilizer dart. The problem was that, even sedated, he resisted for a while, screaming and clinging to another pole. It was difficult to subdue him. Fortunately, Chacha survived without serious injuries. According to local press, he made a full recovery after the ordeal. Chacha's escape was one of the most watched videos of that year in Japan. Just imagine, not content with escaping the zoo, he then climbed the power grid and gave the entire country a live show. Don't forget to subscribe so you can watch more videos like this.